Have you ever wondered what it's like to run away with a circus? Maybe it was a childhood dream, or maybe it seems like the butt end of a joke to you, but whether you idolize it or ridicule it, this is my livelihood and has been for over a decade. And today I'm going to take you along with me on my latest contract and show you a behind the scenes peek of what it's like to run away with a circus. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I'm Shannon Makes, and here on YouTube I mainly make videos about sewing, crafting, house renovation, and DIY. But I've been performing professionally as my sole source of income for many years, and I figured now would be a great time to bring you along with me on my summer contract here in Norway. So first things first, at the beginning of every contract, gotta pack my bags, which means I have 2 months of clothes, crafts, and costumes all in one suitcase. Fortunately, I'm not much of a clothing horse. I'm more the type of a girl that once I find a garment I like, I don't want to waste any more time shopping around. I just want more of that same garment, maybe in a couple different colors. And to help me with that and with packing my suitcase today is today's sponsor, ThredUp. Now they are the world's largest online thrift store. They've got hundreds of brands at a fraction of the cost. And it is exactly what I need in this situation because I have some really specific items that I'm looking for because I can filter by size, by brand, by category. They've got so many filters that all make it so easy to find exactly what I want secondhand, especially because in my case, a lot of my wardrobe staples have been favorites for so long that they're no longer sold in stores. So, for example, my favorite pants, they're made by Athleta. Well, they were made. They're no longer in stores. They are so comfortable and really breezy and light, but I also recently destroyed them while renovating. So I went to ThredUp and I filtered by brand, Athleta, size, medium, color, blue, and purple, and voila, look what I found, another pair of my favorite pants. These are exactly the same as my previous purple pair. They're just blue, and they were originally $109, but on ThredUp I got them for $23.49. So I was super happy about that. I also found a perfect pair of shoes. I love Morel brand shoes, but with a really low profile Vibram sole. Basically this is what I had been wearing, and I love these dearly. But the problem with this is inevitably, look at that, the soles do this. Now I can glue the sole back on, and I have multiple times, but it is kind of just a stopgap measure. It always inevitably fails. So since I don't want to deal with that when I'm halfway around the world, I was thrilled when I found these. Now, these are Morel brand. They have the Vibram sole. They even have a little label on here that says barefoot. So I was super happy about that. They were originally estimated at $127, and I got them for $21.49, which very excited to go hiking in those. And then to complete the outfit, lastly, a cute Patagonia top. Another favorite brand of mine. I always keep my eye open both for Smartwool and Patagonia tops, just like this. Originally this one was $85, but I was able to snag it for 75% off at only $29.99. And then just add a cute little lightweight Adidas drawstring backpack, and I am all set for a hike in the Norwegian wilderness, regardless of what the temperature is or how many ticks they're gonna throw at me. Plus, while I was there, I couldn't help picking out a cute fall outfit as well. I stumbled on these. They're Bella Rose overalls. Got a nice wide leg. I found them when I filtered by natural materials, so it's 100% cotton, and while they might have cost me $127 new, I only paid $27.49 for them. Plus they go super well with this lily citrus colored plaid. It's giving vaguely vintage vibes. It's kind of got the Eisenhower jacket style, which I think is super, super cute. That jacket originally $159, and I only paid $16.49 for it. That is just wild, and they look super, super cute styled together. A really cute fall outfit. So if you are looking for specific clothes for a specific event, whether that is a vacation or looking cute for a new season, or maybe you have a special event that you need to dress up for, a wedding, something like that, you can shop hundreds of brands for a fraction of the price, all in one place. You can click the link in the description and use code Shannon50 to shop my ThredUp faves, and you'll get 50% off of your first order plus free shipping. That's 50% off of already great deals plus free shipping. So go check them out, and thank you so much to ThredUp, not only for sponsoring this video, but also for helping me to pack in a very quick, efficient, and enjoyable manner. So this contract, like all contracts, starts with the rehearsal process. How long and how intense the rehearsals are depends on a lot of factors, from how much the show is being built from scratch, to how many different artists there are, how integrated the acts will be into the storyline of the show, how technically difficult the numbers are, a bunch of different things like that. So here, we're doing something that is, for us at least, a bit unusual, and that is that we're doing a kids show. So normally our act is more poetic and artistic, but now we'll be spending a lot of the rehearsal process modifying it to be more upbeat and comical, just to fit in better with the rest of the show. We'll also be modifying our serial act to be safe to perform in this specific venue, because the floor here is very much less than ideal for our act. It's very bumpy, it's got some gaps in it, and it's also a little bit slippery. So we're going to be modifying and restructuring all of our technique to make sure that we can perform safely on this floor and in all the various conditions that this outdoor tent is going to throw at us. The rehearsal process is always a pretty intense period of time, because all artists are generally required to stay at the tent all day because you have to be available in case you're needed. And so I often bring a good book, or more often, some crafting supplies with me to keep me busy during the downtime. And in fact, if you've watched my English paper piecing video from last year, you'll already have gotten a sneak peek at some of our rehearsals, because a slow and easily interruptible hand stitching project is perfect for the unpredictable and spur of the moment nature of rehearsals. Now, in this case, the rehearsal process is fairly short because there's only a handful of circus acts. The show is playing in a large and well-known theme park, and the entire show is based on a much-beloved Norwegian children's tale, which takes place in the fictional city of Cardamom Town, or Kardemommeby. The tale, which was written in 1955, centers around three robbers, Casper, Jesper, and Jonathan, who cause trouble for the town but are eventually redeemed when they save it from a fire. Their characters give up their criminal ways in favor of more useful jobs. One would become a baker, the other wants to be a drummer, and the third dreams of starting a circus. And that is where our show picks up. But that means that our cast of characters includes not just circus acts, but also many actors. We have Casper, Jesper, Jonathan, and the young Camilla, who's played by a rotating cast of 3 different children. It's a funny balance of theater and circus that plays into the love, recognition, and nostalgia of these familiar characters, but also introduces the whimsy and magic of the circus. So one of the more fun and unique things about this contract, at least for us, is that we're actually doing caravan living. So I feel like this is kind of one of the things that, you know, when people think about circus artists, they would more traditionally think about you're traveling in trains, in caravans, camper wagons, that sort of thing. But for us, we tend to do much more contemporary style contracts. So we're almost always being lodged either in hotels or quite frequently in apartment buildings that are owned by the theater that we're performing at. This is quite normal for us, but here in Norway it's kind of fun. We have some caravans that we've been living in for the past several weeks, so I thought I took a little time this morning to do a little extra clean of my caravan, so I'm gonna flip the camera around and show you my digs. So coming right in, the first thing we've got is the kitchen table, the living room, the seating area. Now this also converts into a bed, and it's actually a pretty comfortable bed. Looking up, lots and lots of storage. Honestly, most of this I'm not even using. I have some stuff in here, like this is all my filming equipment. We've got the drone, and then over here more filming equipment. Then over here, of course, all of the crafting supplies that I brought with me. So many of those. Notepad usually lives here, and pens I do love. Using a nice colorful array of pens when I write stuff down. Also the book, I just finished this. I bought it last year, didn't get to read it at all, and finally just picked it up and finished it within a few days. Really good. Super enjoyed that. If you enjoy historical fantasy, can definitely recommend. Also, takes place here in Norway, which is kind of cool. So there's the seating area. I spend a lot of time here, especially in the mornings, editing videos. Currently, I'm actually set up outside. It's a pretty nice day today, so I'm out there editing, but often we'll be in here. We've got the kitchen sink. Now this is kind of fun. Comes with a little oven. It's not the most precise oven, but it is an oven, and I have used it a few times, so not going to complain. Over here we've got the stove top, and then over here also the sink. Obviously this gets a lot of use. This is kind of fun, just folds up. Up here, you know, I've got bowls and plates, cups, mugs, glasses. That one's my favorite. I always take my coffee in that one because it's so pretty. And then if we swing around here on the other side of the kitchen, this is the pantry. You know, I could use to do some grocery shopping at the moment, but very sizable cupboard. This is a very fun little feature. This is my coffee maker. That's how I make coffee every morning, and it's collapsible. It also has a lid. The lid is in my suitcase. I bring this with me on every contract because it's so practical. I never know if what the coffee setup is gonna be. So I always just bring this and a couple filters and a baggie of coffee, and that way when I arrive on contract I'm all set, at least for the first couple days. Help me with some jet lag, get the morning coffee, so that's always handy. Then very sizable refrigerator and freezer. So as you can see, definitely can fit lots of groceries in there. Then moving on, we've got the bedroom, my bed, Canel's bed. I'm only partially kidding about that. And then yeah, up here again, lots of storage. Here we've got open shelving. This is all the clothing I brought with me on tour. It's kind of wild, actually. That's the suitcase. That's my carry-on backpack, which I use to do grocery shopping here. I go grocery shopping on bike and fill that guy up. And then actually this is another feature. I love these guys. So I bought these a long time ago, and they are solar powered, as you can see, and they're little camping lanterns. So they've got a flicker setting, a low setting, and a high setting. Very practical. I've got two of them. This is just air, so once you take all the air out, they're this tiny little hockey puck. It's, you know, maybe a quarter of an inch thick, so they take up no space, they take up no weight, and they add a lot of cute ambiance. I'm all about adding ambiance. So I've got the candles and the cute bed linens. And then here we can see the view of the rest of the caravan. In here, the bathroom is nothing special, nothing of note. It is nice and bright, at least due to that skylight. Yeah, we've got toilet, sink, shower, and yeah, so that's the tiny little bathroom situation. You can see all kinds of cute storage solutions, storage there. All of these up here, again, which I'm not really using because I don't need to. So that was what my caravan looked like. That was the official tour. And I have to say that when I first started out taking jobs, I kind of swore off caravan living because I associated it with a type of contract that I never really wanted to take. It never really appealed to me. But I will say that now, many years later, having taken many different types of contracts and having done ones like, for example, if you saw my Vlogmas series from 2 years ago, where we were in a different city and a different hotel room, every day or two, honestly, I would much prefer to have the caravan. I would much prefer to bring my home with me to different cities than having to constantly be packing and unpacking a suitcase. I feel like if there's anyone out there that has traveled for a living, you kind of understand hotel living, the appeal of it. It gets old really quick. Same with eating out. Here, I love that I have my own little kitchenette. I know where everything is. I always have the same pots and pans and knives. Speaking of that, that was one thing I forgot to mention. I always travel with my own knife because nothing drives me more crazy and actually can be quite dangerous than showing up and having a dull knife. So quite early on in my career, one of the first things that I insisted on always traveling with is a nice sharp knife. Doesn't have to be a big one, just a little tiny baby paring knife, but makes life on contract so much easier. Now, having done a couple contracts in my career where we were doing caravan living, this one happens to be static, but the previous one was touring. We were traveling all over Switzerland. I am now, I think you can say, officially a caravan convert. Now, if I had to guess, the question on some of your minds right now is what kind of venue has the budget and the desire to fly artists halfway around the world for a children's show? And the answer is the Dyrepark. It claims to be Norway's largest and most well-known family and tourist destination, and it's part zoo, part theme park, full of animals, rides, exhibits, and, of course, shows. And one thing I'll say is that it definitely makes for a beautiful and interesting walk into work every day. Now today's actually an extra special day because, unbeknownst to me, Venus, the female moose, had just had a baby less than 48 hours earlier, and they were both out right next to the boardwalk, so that means that we can get a really close look at them. With a last few finishing touches, rehearsals were over and the show could start rolling. Now, we're one of the only artists presenting 2 acts, and they bookend the show. So ours is the first circus act the audience sees, and also the last, which means that we arrive early enough before the show to get a good warm-up in, because once the show starts, we're kept busy with our other cues, and we don't really have time to do much warming up. Although, I've certainly managed to squeeze in a few moments here and there. Then, once doors open, we go do our makeup while the audience gets seated. There's a brief audience warm-up act, and then the show starts. I had to pick one word to describe the show, I'd say cozy, and that goes both for what's presented on stage as well as what's happening backstage. It's a very small tent with a very small backstage, packed with props and costumes, and we're also a very small cast. So whenever somebody's not actively on stage, they're usually helping out behind the scenes, whether that's pulling the curtain, shuffling props around, or maybe helping to move the giant elephant costumes. In this case, a nod to some antiquated circus traditions, although the costume was realistic enough that it managed to fool at least one viewer. Now, I do my best in these videos to convey what I think are the most interesting parts of every contract, but I am also probably the worst person to decide what those parts are because this is my life. This is very normal and routine and mundane to me. So, as always, I invite you to leave any thoughts, questions, comments down in the comment section below, and I do read them all and I use them to shape and direct future circus videos. So definitely, if you have a burning question about the lifestyle, head on down there and leave me a question. Also, if you love the circus videos, if you are a certified circus freak and you just want more, then I do have a bunch of bonus circus related videos that I put up over on my Patreon page. I even kind of rounded them all up and made a collection of circus content. So if you want to check that out, you can head on over to my Patreon. The link, as always, is down in the description. And now, because it's Sunday, I have a little extra Sunday post-show tradition, and that is going through all my costumes and checking them out, seeing if anything needs any repairs. And I know off the bat that I've got a couple repairs to do. I have a hole in the armpit of that shirt, I've got a button missing on this shirt, and I've got to work on some of the grommets from these shoes because they're popping out. Already that's a pretty long list, but yeah, I just tend to go through, do a once over because, you know, a stitch in time saves 9. Turns out we've got a lot of repairs to do this weekend. Need a new zipper, need to patch a couple holes in my white vest, have to sew on a lot or reinforce a lot of the buttons on my vest, and I've got to reinforce the grommets in my shoes because they're starting to pop out. So got a lot of work ahead of us. And this is how many Monday mornings start off around here. A cup of coffee and a needle and thread. A relaxing and relatively enjoyable chore, but not nearly as enjoyable as what follows, which is almost always a dazzling adventure in the Norwegian wilderness. The hike we're doing today is called Tomarena, or in English, the log chute. This is not an uncommon ride for children in amusement parks, and we actually have one in the park that we're working at here, but today we're walking the real Tomarena. The Tomarena is 4 kilometers long. It's the only one of its kind here in Norway, and it's a super interesting and unique experience because you're walking alongside and sometimes directly above the river. The timbers are often in rough shape, very rustic to say the least, and it gives you a bird's eye view on the landscape. But there's also plenty of opportunities to hop off of the chute and follow various different paths into the woods. And this is a pretty typical representation of our days off. We find a beautiful hike, round up as much of the cast as we can, and just go exploring. Now, we do still go hiking on show days, but they tend to be shorter hikes, they stay a bit closer to home, so it's really nice one day a week to just be unconstrained by time limits or trying to save our energy and really just devote an entire day to losing ourselves in nature. Plus, as a benefit, the hikes often finish with a sweet treat. But the day off always seems to fly by, and then it's back to work. It can definitely be kind of strange to look out into the crowd to realize that it's full of overstimulated kids and parents that are nodding off to sleep. It's definitely strange to be performing as part of a universe that's known and cherished by everyone here, but that holds no cultural significance to me personally. But then I get messages like this and I remember why I love my job, why the circus is so magical. Because for every grumpy, exhausted parent, there's one that's rekindled some childhood nostalgia and whimsy. For every bouncy, antsy child on a sugar high that'll forget the show the moment they leave the tent, there's another that won't stop talking about it until his parents bring him back to see it again next year. I get to travel the world, meet new people, make new friends, and if that means that sometimes I have to dress up like a horse to do it, well then, so be it. Don't forget to check out ThreadUp. You can get 50% off your first order with code Shannon50.